Okay, welcome to part two of the expose of what I believe to be a criminal conspiracy in my hometown. Please remember, not trying to sound like an e-beggar, but I've just exposed almost, over 2,000 people as part of a criminal conspiracy. I'm sure some of them are going to try to sue me, even though they haven't really got much of a chance of succeeding because everything I've done is a protected type of speech. I'm reporting what I believe to be unethical and illegal activities involving our government, involving the public's interest in government. Everything I'm exposing comes from publicly available information in terms of what the law defines public information. They have posted this information into a Facebook group that had hundreds of people in it who all saw it. It is not per Supreme Court ruling on the topic of Facebook communications. Private information. Therefore, they don't have much to stand on. Still, they're going to probably try to sue me, so I would appreciate, here's a link in the description, send some bucks my way, please, for the Legal Defense Fund, so I can continue to report and expose these types of people, which apparently now is my current mission in life. Alright, we're going to continue on the article. Who is Progressive Yamhill? To understand the origins of Progressive Yamhill and the Newberg Equity in Education Group, which I believe is a splinter cell of it, we have to roll the clock back to Donald Trump winning the 2016 presidential election. The loss of Hillary Clinton so greatly upset the supporters of the Democratic Party that its leadership devoted significant resources to reaching out to municipal and county voters in states across America, especially in any pockets of conservatorship among otherwise liberal states. A well-known example is When We All Vote, which has involvement of numerous celebrities and even Michelle Obama. There are other groups, though. Some of these groups use less than honest means of engaging in the political process. I believe many of these shady groups masquerade as just being about getting people to vote and pretend to be nonpartisan, but in actuality, they are aligned with the Democratic Party and use these nonprofits and PACs to steer voters toward their candidates using deceptive and sometimes even illegal tactics. The Indivisible Movement. The most important of these groups that relates to my investigation into the criminal conspiracy in Yamhill County is one called Indivisible Oregon. The group is part of the so-called Indivisible Movement, which is promoted by the Indivisible organization. It has claimed responsibility for beating Trump and also says it is saving democracy. I very much doubt the latter, given the activities of its Yamhill chapter, which you will soon see have undermined democracy in our county and cities. A convenient list of all the registered groups across the country, is available via their website. It's very useful. Indivisible is ran by an executive leadership team that consists of married couple Leigh Greenberg and Ezra Levin. Okay, these lovely folks. They are, of course, supporters of critical race theory, as per their Twitter accounts. Okay, various posts about them supporting critical race theory. As mentioned in my previous article, ignore the pretty-sounding words these people use. Always focus on their actions. Focus on what they do and want others to do. That shows what they're really about. Per Ezra's Twitter, okay, here he is wanting to add more Supreme Court judge seats just so that they can win. These are the whack jobs that want new Supreme Court judge seats to be created solely so they can add as many people as they want to overrule other judges on the Supreme Court. There's no legitimate reason to add new seats to this court, and doing so just to pack the court with supporters is very unethical. We may not always like their rulings, but they are based in constitutional law. We can't just pack the court with lemmings every time we don't like the rulings. That breaks the court system apart, which will cause the country to collapse. The founders of the Indivisible Movement also support the deceptively titled For the People Act, which is not actually for the people. Part of its agenda is to rob states of their right to supervise elections and outlaw the requirement to show proof of voter registration at the ballot box. The bill is so bad that I honestly think if it were to pass, it could trigger a second civil war in America because it is such a tyrannical power grab over state rights guaranteed by the Constitution. I can't see how Republicans would ever tolerate that, and I think many moderate Democrats won't either. This is probably one of the worst bills that has ever been proposed in American history, and these idiots are supporters of it. There's the evidence for that. Examining the indivisible movement, I believe their goals make them tyrannical, not democratic. You cannot save democracy using tyranny. I believe the consequences of what the indivisible movement wants will burn our republic to the ground, as the will of most citizens will become disregarded in favor of mobs and conspiracies, such as the one their splinter cell has created in Yamhill County. It says Yamhill Country. Accidentally. Fix that. Sorry. Keep pressing the wrong thing. Oregon, and is the topic of this investigative report. With this brand of Orwellian double speakers, always look at what they do and not what they say. What they do is what they actually want. I say what I say about the indivisible movement because Megan Corvos, one of the influential members of both Newberg Equity and Education and Progressive Yamhill groups, was trained by the Indivisible organization in how to conduct her conspiracies. See? And Megan Corvos, I learned about this at the Indivisible Oregon training last year. Yep. Here she is as one of the admins of Progressive Yamhill Group. And of course, here is a screenshot here of the Indivisible directory, indivisible.org, you see right there. And then there's Progressive Yamhill and their chapter of the Indivisible organization. There's lots of them, actually. So, Progressive Yamhill is an affiliate of Indivisible Oregon, which is an affiliate of Action Together Oregon, which is a group on the Action Network platform, a company that provides a suite of software tools to assist with political activism. And here's Megan talking about all this stuff right in the screenshots, along with all the people involved. At the bottom of the Action Network website, you'll find this disclaimer that says it's open platform, yada, 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 and they're not responsible for any unethical bullshit people do. Sure thing, guys. Action Network is, I think, unreasonably powerful because many organizations are dumb enough to give them access to their list of members so they can use the suite of tools. The voter database information is far too valuable for any reasonable person to ever give to a company like this, and I think anyone using their platform to organize their political campaigns just so they can send email and SMS alerts is probably a fool. Anyway, these groups are just an extension of the Democratic Party platform, and they represent the most radical aspects of it, in my opinion. Their ideas are not original. They are the usual tripe of Democrat Party platform things, like abortion rights and Build Back Better, and so on, right? The only thing unique here is they focus their efforts on organizing everyday residents in cities to take actions that benefit the Democratic Party agenda at the municipal, I guess I said country again, I meant county. Fix that typo. This is also my proofread as well, by the way. At the agenda at the municipal, county, and state levels, no matter how absurd they may be. It's the most radical wing of the Democratic Party in the driver's seat over the decision of many people. Essentially, the Indivisible movement exists to radicalize Democratic voters into cultish mobs that harass and intimidate their neighbors as a means of asserting political control. Why do I say this? Well, Indivisible Oregon and Actions, and I got this in parentheses because this is their version of an action. The Oregon group is designed specifically to coordinate numerous grassroots groups in Oregon that operate at the municipal, the city, and county levels, and convince their members to act as a collective. The names of the splinter cell groups are not always obvious, but they tend to be named using words like indivisible, progressive, or equity, or other critical race theory buzzwords. They also use words like revolution sometimes. The coordination is organized via the publication of both public and private actions distributed through the main Facebook page and their private group, which are then reshared by leaders in the county level and municipal level groups. These actions are a set of instructions for the cult members to carry out. The important thing is that the actions put out by the Indivisible Oregon site are recirculated throughout these groups. Here is an example of a recent call to action to spam call senators. Okay, so basically they have instructions. They got this template. You just change out it says enter your name here or say your name here, and you say your name and otherwise read the script. They want you to do this shit every fucking day. Okay, every day call somebody. Call a senator, call a representative, call a private business, and make demands. Okay, there's another example of what they want people to do. There's a lot more to it, of course, but you get the gist of it, right? They publish these actions to tell people how they should feel about an issue, give them the contact information of a public official or private company, and then ask people to make daily calls with a pre-created script to serve as a template on what they want people to say when they make the phone calls or send emails or whatever. The goal is to overwhelm politicians and private companies with the deceptively created appearance of spontaneous support for or against social issues without any disclosures. The phone calls are being organized by a single entity. This is probably very confusing for the targets of the actions, who may mistake the source of the sudden volume of calls and feedback for being a legitimate representative. It says representative, but it should be representation. Legitimate representative should say legitimate representation of people's opinions, when it's really not. The only thing it actually means is that a cult leader got mad at them and sent their cult followers to harass them the way you'd send an attack dog at an intruder. The cult followers have turned some of their autonomy over to the cult leaders, allowing them to decide what to think and do. More importantly, the actions are a kind of harassment designed to waste the time of the office staff, who have to sit there answering the phones all day, hearing the exact same script repeated from the same people who call day in and day out. It's a form of, in my opinion, paper terrorism. While they aren't legal documents being submitted, because the law says that these kinds of calls have to be responded to by politicians, it eats up time and therefore the budget of committees and offices to deal with this volume of calls that groups like this create. It's probably one of the main reasons why it's so hard to get customer service over the telephone from many large companies these days, because they otherwise get easily flooded with these kinds of harassing phone calls from political action committees who utilize this tactic. When this tactic is used against very small seats of government with little funding for staff, like, say, school boards, this can be rather devastating. Now you can understand why the structure of these kinds of groups led to something such as the organized intimidation of elected officials and coercion of local businesses, a racketeering charge, that I showcased in the previous article. These indivisible movement groups are, by design, meant to foster a culture where every member of the cult unquestionably participates in actions like making harassing phone calls and bulk sending boilerplate emails to pressure companies and politicians to change their policies to conform to the will of the cult. This is a routine task for those in the Indivisible movement. There are far too many Oregon-based Indivisible groups I have identified for me to list them all here, but it's probably easiest for regular people to just assume that any politician who endorses critical race theory is part of an Indivisible movement splinter cell and engages in the same kinds of activities that are showcased by the members of Progressive Yamhill. Not being listed among the ranks of this particular cell doesn't mean they aren't involved in a different cell. Again, many of these groups are focused on particular cities and counties where they can take action. For now, let's continue focusing on the Yamhill conspiracy and its actions that I believe are illegal. Manipulation of public offices organized by indivisible groups. The phone call actions are just the most obvious thing they do in public. What the groups are really for is getting their members elected to public office and then to coordinate how they use those positions to benefit the agenda of the groups. Please do note that some of the county and city level groups are not as well organized as the Yamhill and Newberg groups are, as you will see noted by Megan Corvos herself in her discussions about the topic inside the Progressive Yamhill group, why it exists. Here she is chastising a member that wants to focus on some stuff in Portland, which isn't too far away from, isn't far away from Yamhill County, but it's not what they're focused on. They're hyper focused on their particular area. She says, one of the most important rules of this group, we keep the conversation local, okay? Don't talk about the news in places we can't influence. This group is the only place we can have the local conversations and where we feel people can come and be given specific achievable actions they can take, you see. I am in a lot of groups across the state that were set up after 2016 for similar purposes to pull people together, find ways to fight back against Trump and the Republican agenda. Most of them fizzled out into quiet groups where people post infuriating national news or memes to very little engagement. No one else is hosting live stream commentary on local government meetings and blah, blah, blah. I and the other admins and leaders were here given many hours of sleepless nights to making sure our work turned into something that could truly influence local government to the left. So, very, very hyper-focused. And here's a document with some stuff in it, and blah, blah, blah. And here, is some of the stuff that's in it. I'm not going to go over all of it. Feel free to read what's in these documents yourself. And we'll just keep going down, because I wanted to make sure I showed the full, threads. I don't want them to think that I'm taking anything they said out of context. That's a mistake I think Veritas often does. Nothing can be called out of context, because I show the whole damn thing. There can be no doubt what the purpose of the group is, since they said in plain language what it's about while chastising another member. The existence and influence of Progressive Yamhill in the affairs of cities and county government and even state is undeniable, especially given the individuals involved who are public officials and what activities they engage in within the groups. This is because many of the calls to action made within the private splinter groups at city and county level are specific to the election of certain members of the splinter groups themselves, who then use their elected offices to push the agenda of the splinter cells, such as Progressive Yamhill and the indivisible organizations. And here's evidence of that. Okay? And more evidence. You'll have to read the full article itself if you want to see all this stuff. Okay, they got all their members, all the people from the beginning of it. Okay, here we got Kate Brown, made apparently one of their members on the recently created Racial Justice Council. So they've got influential people. Okay, they got influential people at all levels of Oregon government. Seems that person was a blah blah blah. Anyway, continuing on. Progressive Yamhill is yet another critical race theory cult. It's important that we do not lose sight of the fact that this group, like all other indivisible groups, are part of the BLM/critical race theory movement. As previously mentioned in the first part of this expose, critical race theory is a common enemy framework that is ideologically opposed to the common humanity approach to diversity. It teaches people to not subscribe to Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream for integration and acceptance, and instead, it advances the agenda of radical militant black separatist groups from the 1960s, such as the Black Panther Party and the Weather Underground. That is, it teaches people to be racist, and within the echo chamber of these groups, the members and their leaders will freely admit to this. Here's Megan Corvos saying, I am a racist. I am racist. She says, okay, here's the thing. It's true, I did say that to Commissioner Sterrett's face. I am a racist. As a white person born and raised in a predominantly white state in America, it's hard not to be. But it's also okay to be racist as long as you see it and keep working to address it. Having a racist worldview is not the problem. Thinking it's okay to have a racist worldview because having to do something about it would be hard is the problem. That's what she says. Okay? And there's more of them who all do the same bullshit. So, there's really no way to deny it. We believe we're inherently biased. All kinds of stuff. They've drunk the Kool-Aid of the cult. They've fully drunk it. Okay? Fully drunk it. As you can see, they are a cult of self-admitted racist people who believe everyone is racist. They believe in a twisted white savior kind of ideology, where they, as a white person, have enormous special benefits due to being white, and owe a blood debt to those who are not for ancestral wrong. They believe they can become a good person by using that white privilege to carry out the will of black and brown people to create a segregated society that will benefit those marginalized peoples, which they publicly label as equity under their Orwellian doublespeakish terminology that is designed to confuse the general public about what they are actually doing. What you have seen in the screenshots above, and what you will continue to see as we keep on going, is how they talk behind closed doors amongst their members. This is what is actually intended by their framework and movement. This is what the quiet parts sound like when said aloud. As I explained in my prior article, critical race theory is not genuine anti-racism training. Instead, it teaches people to become racists and then use these racist beliefs to justify the harassment and intimidation of others, even elected officials, with the goal of seizing political power. They sabotage the function of local government through the creation and participation in a criminal conspiracy designed to dismantle and rebuild America into an ethnically segregated society. They use their seats of power in bad faith to accomplish this agenda, claiming they are doing good while actually doing evil. They use our tax money to further their political agenda and personal interests once they gain those inches into government. As an example, here's Erica Marksberry talking about how they use grant funding to buy a critical race theory fucking book and give it to a bunch of people. Lovely. 60 copies with a grant. Wonderful. This is what Black Lives Matter and all related groups is designed to motivate people to do. Here, of course, is Lupita, who is the Guadalupe Martini Zapata, the vice chair of the Oregon Board of Education, saying, "No part of our society isn't complicit or part of the problem. U.S. was built for and to the benefit of white Americans. Every last nail of its construction. Our country needs not to be Frankensteined. It needs to be rebuilt in a fashion that fits real needs. Destroy America." That's what they want to do. She's a member of Newburgh Equity in Education, as I showed before, and she's also a member of Progressive Yamhill. They are pleased with the chaos that is resulting from the consequences of the wide political divide that their efforts create. Here is a post where a member says, "Red states are threatening to secede from the Union. Let them. These zealots are threatening those of us who are vaccinated. Therefore, many of them will eventually get sick and die from one or another virus variant. I won't weep," they say. Here's the people that liked it. And they subvert our symbols and language to further the divide so our nation will collapse under the weight of its own dysfunctional bureaucracy. Here's a really important American flag here that they created. And it says all the usual CRT buzzwords. This was many years ago. Now they don't use the American flag whatsoever, but this was early on in the movement. Now they won't use it at all. They are organized and insidious, and they are breaking the laws designed to stop actual racists. As an example, I mentioned Sal Peralta before. Here he is, and by the way, Sal Peralta is a member of the McMinnville City Council, putting out applications within Progressive Yamhill. So we only submitted this to a secret Facebook Mafia club that he's part of, right? It says, "Please consider submitting an application by this Friday for City of McMinnville Budget Committee. Women and people of color especially encouraged to apply." But then he says, but please apply even if you are considering it. But importantly, he says women and people of color especially. So what he says after doesn't fucking matter. He's already said that we only want women and people of color to apply. So here he is violating the Civil Rights Act of 1964. You can't give preferential treatment to choosing committee members based on their gender and their race. Yet here he is, the supposed champion against racism and sexism, being a sexist racist, as well as breaking a couple other laws that we'll talk about, since you literally can't do what he just did. So this is what critical race theorists do in government positions. This is why they must be stopped. Their goal is to undo all the social progress of equality that has been hard fought and took so many sacrifices to obtain. They will destroy our civil rights if they are allowed to continue to gain traction in our government. Critical race theory is an ideology that preys on pre-existing narcissistic qualities of people like Megan Corvos, who believe themselves to be white, and weaponizes it, leading them to believe their skin color alone gives them enormous power in society, and that they can use this mystical status of white to become a hero. They are not heroes, and they do nothing heroic. Because in actual habit, they ruin the lives of others, turn neighbors who once were friendly into enemies, and create a twisted, racially driven power dynamic in mixed ethnicity relationships and families. They are reigniting the last burning embers of racism in America, which was on the verge of being almost completely eliminated from our society until black separatists use our colleges to indoctrinate children in critical race theory, using our tax-funded institutions of learning. They require all teachers to learn critical race theory, and so their ideology has rapidly spread throughout America, since the only people who get to graduate are those who adopt its ideology. I cannot fix this broken part of the system with this article. It's going to take politicians using the government speech doctrine to implement legislation designed to eliminate all public funding and government contracts to colleges that teach critical race theory. This is the only way I can see for this cycle to be quickly ended. What I can do is expose this particular cell of racist criminals who have enacted a program of sabotage against our local government at the city and county level, and in so doing, bring this conspiracy to an end. Their network is now useless once they are exposed for what they are and who is part of it, and the crimes they can be held accountable for, their behavior with the criminal and civil court system. Who founded Progressive Yamhill and for what purpose? Progressive Yamhill was founded by politician Lynette Shaw. Her current membership shows she left the group sometime in 2020 and rejoined it possibly during her last candidacy, but her old posts from the formation of the group have remained. Here she is as a member. Here's her old post from 2016 showing, the formation of the group, and you can see Megan Corvos, member from the start. Lots of people members, by the way. Megan Corvos seems to be the most influential member, at least judging by number of call to action posts she has made in the group. It does, however, have many elected officials, as the members like to brag about from time to time. Here's a bunch of them. There's a bunch bragging about all the people. Lynette Shaw, Ross Swartz, End Rubber. I don't know who End Rubber was supposed to be. Lisa Poole Lack, Chris Bledsoe, Sal Peralto, Megan Corvos, Ken Moore, Casey Kula, Yamhill County Commissioner, Holly Hollingsworth Nettles, Seth Rene, Amy Wilder, and a bunch of other people, Tiffany Partridge, Blake, Fiona. That's what she all said. We have members who are actively organizing events and protests, and a Juneteenth Jubilee, Ebony McNeil, Shally Sase, McNo, William Webb Thomas, blah, blah, blah. People in the wine industry, mostly because of the pressure that Chelsea Jansen rallied as an ally and professional in that industry. There you go. Lots of valuable information, perfect number of intel. Thank you so very much, Emily Matsuda, for providing all this helpful information. Thank you. So, here's the full list of Progressive Yamhill members in a downloadable spreadsheet. You can download this Excel spreadsheet of the members of the Progressive Yamhill group to see this for yourself. Its spreadsheet is more raw than the one I made for the first expose, as it only links to their chats within the group itself and not their primary profiles. However, you can use their Facebook user ID in the URL chain to locate that one if you really want to. As an example of how to do this, take Kristen Stoller's URL in the spreadsheet, right? So it looks like this. It says facebook.com, groups / a bunch of numbers that identifies the group ID. And then it says user, and then it has the user ID at the very end. So the very last number is her user ID. You take that, and then you simply add it to the end of facebook.com, and it will send you directly to one of their profiles. As an example, I'm going to click on it right here, and we go over to Kristen Stoller's Facebook profile page. See? Easy, right? I also have screenshots of the entire member list organized alphabetically as proof these people are members of Progressive Yamhill. The screenshots are incredibly large files, as I have used screen capture software to record pages into a single large image, but I can open it in Photoshop and zoom in since the image is a vector file. This information is available for law enforcement and other parties looking for visual confirmation of membership for anyone who is not already demonstrated to be a member in this article. I primarily focused on their leadership and other key individuals in this article. Now, using this list, when you see people who speak at city council meetings, school board sessions, in Facebook groups related to local politics, and when you read newspaper articles quoting people, you can easily cross-reference the individuals against the spreadsheet and see whether they are part of this no longer secret Facebook mafia club that seeks to disrupt our democracy. A list of administrators and moderators of progressive Yamhill. Now I reach into the shadows and start pulling those responsible into the light. Here's a list of the current admins of the group. Rich Blaha, who's the owner of Moss Black Farm. His wife is apparently Val, I guess I had this wrong, Blaha, a senior. Whatever. I guess I'll fix that. Sorry, take a note here. Val Bala. Okay. Susan Delventhal, who is a homesteader at Deer Dream Gardens, apparently. Stephanie Bell Finley, who's on the Newburgh City Council. Allison Laffey Larkin, who is a co-founder, program lead, and member of the board of directors at Yamhill Valley Community Doulas. Amy Wilder, who's an insight data engineer at Pay Near Me and a former Carleton City Council member. Megan Corvos, who is the recording secretary of Yamhill County Democrats. Sidoni Winfield, who apparently is an attorney and a City of McMinnville Planning Committee member. Marvin Bernards, who is an owner of Bernard's Farms. Marta Katerina Soppy, who, near as I can tell, is only notable in that she's the daughter of former City of Newburgh Councilor Robert Soap. Linda Hayes, she's an officer at Linda Hayes Properties, LLC, and Hopscotch Toys. Kelly Peterson, who is head of domains at Automatic, who is the company that owns WordPress. Abbey Warmbuyer, corresponding secretary of Yamhill Democrats and a McMinnville Public School Board director. Heather Nicole, I could not figure out how she's notable at all. She may just be another one of these stay-at-home moms with too much time on her frickin' hands. And here's faces of all of them to prove that they are what they are. And here's all their smiling, lovely faces of all these lovely, wonderful, wonderful people who are all part of this criminal conspiracy. At least what I think it is. Here's Kelly Peterson, works at Automatic. See, she's such a big shot. Lovely. Okay, so let's move on to the next group of losers hiding in the shadows, because you're all coming out into the light too. Okay, lists have identified elected politicians and other key political activists by cross-referencing Lynette Shaw's endorsements page on her campaign website to the member list of Progressive Yamhill. I gained further insight and used this to identify many of the key individuals involved in the conspiracy. There are some people who I believe are close relatives of elected officials in the full list of the group members, but these are the people who were stupid enough to actually join the Progressive Yamhill group itself with their own personal Facebook accounts. Shirley Ward Mullen, who is on the Carleton City Council. Courtney Neron, Oregon State Representative. Kathy F. Meyer, Carleton City Council. Linda Watkins, who is the Carleton City Mayor. Megan Gometz, Yamhill County School Board. Stephanie Bell Finley, Newburgh City Council. Elise Yarnell Holloman, Newburgh City Council. Bryce Cofield, Newburgh City Council. Remy Drabkin, McMinnville City Council. Sal Peralto, McMinnville City Council. Zach Geary, McMinnville City Council. Gustavo Guerrero, Vice Chair of Yamhill County Democrats. Megan Corvos, Recording Secretary of Yamhill County Democrats. Omar C. Sandovan, Chair of Yamhill County Democrats, and a Chief of Staff at U.S. State Legislation. Not sure whose Chief of Staff he is. I guess we'll have to see who it is. Abbey Warmbuyer, Corresponding Secretary of Yamhill County Democrats and McMinnville Public School Board Director. Jackie Besler, Treasurer of Yamhill County Democrats. Elaine Harris, who is a delegate with Yamhill County Democrats. Tara Patterson, delegate. And Kathy Dorner, delegate. John Huff, delegate. And Casey Kula, Yamhill County Commissioner. Proof for all of these claims. All their smiling faces, all the lovely things they've said. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And here, Yamhill County Democrats page. You can see that 100% of their leadership is part of it. Here's their delegates. Proof that the delegates are who they are. Okay? Here's their faces. Censored out children when I could. And as you'll note, I believe the involvement of the entire executive officer team of Yamhill County Democrats, a registered political party, means the Progressive Yamhill Group is an extension of their activities. And here's registration, showing that they are registered as a political party with the Democrats. Yes. This means the Yamhill County Democrats is part of the criminal conspiracy, too. I mean, their leaders are part of it. Obviously, they're part of it, right? If you're a member of the Yamhill County Democrats or a supporter of Democratic candidates in Yamhill County, I highly suggest you dramatically rethink your voting habits if you don't support critical race theory and criminal conspiracies designed to subvert our democratic process, because this is what the Democrats are doing as a political party in our country. Excuse me, our county. I said county here. List of committee members. As you'll learn soon, Progressive Yamhill engages in committee packing as part of their conspiracy. I see many people in their member list who I think are related to committee members, but I'm only listing people who are members of the Facebook group at the time I write this, or that I have seen were active members in the past based on post history. So first, as I mentioned before in the first article, here's the ones for the city of Newburgh, right? Melissa Collett Daly, who's Affordable Housing Committee member. Shannon Eoff, another Affordable Housing Committee member. Larry Hampton, another Affordable Housing Committee member. Carol Alexander Sherwood, Affordable Housing again. Greg Minhan, Budget Committee. Suzanne Minhan on the Library Committee. She's actually the chair. Melanie Mildenberger, Citizens Rate Committee. Ryan Howard, Historic Preservation Committee. Jeff Gritter, Traffic Safety Committee. Shannon Buckmaster, Economic Health Manager at the City of Newburgh. Aaron Harrington works at Chehalem Park and Recreational District. Corey Jones-Burkle, she's a librarian at the Newburgh Public Library. For the City of McMinnville, Sidoni Winfield is apparently an attorney and, as mentioned before, City of McMinnville Planning Committee. She's also a mod of Progressive Yamhill. We have Beth Rankin on the Planning Commission. Laura Eddie Shanch, I think is how you pronounce her name. She's on the planning. Scylla McKellen, another planning member. Debbie Harmon Ferry, Budget Commission. And she's also special assistant to the president at Linfield University. Oh, she's a secretary for the president of Linfield University. Tiffany Henness, Equity Commission. Sarah Swartz, Equity Commission. Heather Miller, Economic Vitality Leadership Council. Heather Richards, Planning Director. Mary Elizabeth Branch, Historic Landmarks Committee. Joan Drabkin, Historic Landmarks Committee. John Mead, Historic Landmarks Committee. Kitri Magoo, who's on the MacPac Committee. Lisa Macy Baker, MacPac Committee. Zach Geary, MacPac Committee. Anna Morant Barsotti, MacPac Committee. Lindsay Manfred, Affordable Housing Committee. Vicky Kane, I'm not sure how to pronounce this name. I think it's Polish. Yabarguin, Affordable Housing Committee. Alexandra Hengen, Affordable Housing. Howie Harkuma, Affordable Housing. Yua Matsuda, I believe that's Japanese, Affordable Housing Committee and Housing Specialist at Housing Authority of Yamhill County. And Lisa Poole, can't forget her, Urban Renewal Advisory Committee, City of Carleton and Yamhill County. I couldn't find any for those ones. Make a note here that I couldn't, to remove that. City of Carleton. Did I even look into the City of Carleton planning committees? I probably still need to do that, actually. I know I looked into Yamhill County. You know what? Actually, I think I forgot to do that. I'm going to have to do that. So, sorry, if you're going to know which ones they are, you're going to have to look at the article, because I think I forgot to look at the committees for Yamhill County and City of Carleton. I won't repeat the proof of membership for those who I did in part 1 and previously in this article. Here's proof of the new people who currently are members of Progressive Yamhill, have in the past. Here's all their information. I think I got distracted with the school boards, and then I forgot to go back to the city level committees. That's what I did. Shoot, I was ready to publish this article. It's a good thing I've done this proofread. I was about to miss a few people. Okay, list of school board members. As with Newburgh Equity and Education, there are smaller groups at the city level subservient to progressive Yamhill in the school boards. These are some of the people who are associated with the Indivisible movement that I could identify. First, Newburgh Public Schools, Brandy Kaufman-Penner, Rebecca Pyros, and Anais Lee Pena Anaya. I think is how you pronounce her name. I'm not perfectly great with Spanish. McVinville Public Schools, Abbey Warmbier, as mentioned before, and Yamhill County School Board also has Megan Gomez, I think. She says it on her profile, but I couldn't find it on the website, so I'm not actually 100% sure on this. But she has it listed. Actually, I think, no. Megan Gomez came from, I think it might have come from Lynette Shaw's endorsements page. Anyway, please do note that if your particular city isn't mentioned, that doesn't necessarily mean there are no indivisible movement members in your local government. They could just be part of another splinter cell group, or they had a relative use an account, or they used a fake account in the progressive Yamhill group. This particular cell that I have investigated, let's make a note, council, committees at cities. I don't want to miss any of these people. The particular cell that I have investigated has been hyper-focused on Newburgh and McVinville. Other cells are hyper-focused on other areas. Watch what your officials do. If they support critical race theory, it's safe to assume they are associated with the indivisible in some capacity. Every citizen of a state, and likely the rest of the country, needs to become very focused on local politics. Stop spending your time watching the national news so much. Start paying attention to the local news again. Pay attention to what happens in your hometown. Get involved, get organized, take back your homes. Don't let these people continue to gain control over our country because they do not want to make things better. Their goal is to dismantle and rebuild while using Orwellian doublespeak terms to make it seem as if they have good intentions, when the consequences of what they do will actually destroy everything past generations have built up for us. Abuse of elected offices to benefit the criminal conspirators. In any case, the cult's primary objective at the county level is getting members elected to public offices and then exploiting their seats for the benefit of the group, primarily to push critical race theory. As an example, let's look at State Representative Courtney Neron. In my last article about NEED, I mentioned she was a member of it and is drafting legislation to benefit the NEED agenda. Here she is saying, I am absolutely working on policy relative to this topic. Support from this group will be crucial when we are finally able to bring legislation forward in the 2022 joint sessions. And proof of who she is, Courtney Neron's also a member of Progressive Yamhill. And they are talking about her in there. So here's another example of how they use their seats of government. Stephanie Bell Findley, who's City of Newburgh Council Director, giving an award to her fellow Progressive Yamhill and Newburgh Equity in Action. I guess I said Newburgh Equity in Action again. Giving an award to her fellow Progressive Yamhill and Newburgh Equity and Education member, Remy Drabkin, who is the McVinville City Council President. Okay, here's an award, acceptance of it by Remy and Kristen on behalf of Wine Country Pride. You see proof that they're members of the same mafia group in this one too. Remy Drabkin, who, as noted in the post, accepted the proclamation on behalf of Wine Country Pride. Display of loyalty to the mafia sure has a lot of conflict of interest overlaps between it, doesn't it? Yet the residents of Newburgh had no idea of the ties between these officials via these back-channel communications they use, such as the NEED and Progressive Yamhill groups. Here's some lovely nuggets from Yamhill County Commissioner Casey Kula, who is also a member of Progressive Yamhill. And I show that he joined, had his first term as county commissioner starting in January 2019. Here he is as a member. You can see he's been a member since April of 20th of 2018. His wife's been a member since 2016. She's been one of the first members, I guess. Look at the dates, and he and his wife joined Progressive Yamhill. Then the dates he was elected. Now you understand where his true loyalties lie. And here is 2 years ago in July of 2019. The same year he was elected, giving exclusive special access to members of Progressive Yamhill. Based on what I've read in the group, is more common than it should be. See, July 11th, 2019. And he'll make an appearance here. There he is right there, guys. Case Kula, I think we should have 2 votes needed to... I think we have the 2 votes needed to pass an updated resolution, form a new consolidated countrywide task force, and update the 10-year plan to end homelessness. This will include firm timelines and deadlines for completing each objective, identify the funding source for those that need money. With a plan in place, we can find land/secure HUD funding, build housing. Keep saying the cause of homelessness may be complex. Solution is simple homes for people. That's right. Let's build overpriced land development deals. That's surely going to solve a mental health crisis. Here he is answering questions too, by the way. Don't want to forget that. He asks questions, he gives answers. Exclusive personal answers to his Mafia Club members. That's lovely, isn't it? I've seen him deliver special reports to his fellow Mafia members related to his duties as a commissioner, such as this thread, see, where he's telling people troubled times we live in, giving them a little update about COVID-related things. And then later he'll talk about how, maybe I should use my power as a county commissioner to issue lockdowns. Exclusive and undisclosed back-channel communications to solicit opinions from a group of political activists you are a member of to guide your decisions as a county commissioner. Casey Kula, this is very naughty, okay? Very, very naughty. Asking people for their opinions on what he should do, exclusively in Mafia Facebook Club. Lovely. Newburgh City Council Director Stephanie Bill Finley also made yet another appearance in this thread. By the way, I saw you participating in that thread too, Chris Bloodshoe. I guess I called her Bloodshoe again. Well, I think I already have that in there. Twice. Okay. By the way, so in there, Chris Bloodshoe, Yamhill County Treasurer, don't think you can escape because you're screwed now too. They're all screwed. Here is yet another thread of Casey Kula providing exclusive back-channel communications about his job and his duties to his mafia, just so people can understand. It's a pattern of behavior with him. I have many posts of him doing this, but I can't show them all in this article because we'll lose track of the points I'm trying to make. The thread from September 2019 involves a desire to expand the number of county commissioner slots. So he's trying to add more county commissioner slots, I believe because they wanted to, just sort of pack the county commission with their supporters. Of course, they want, more of the spots because it'll benefit them in their operations. Here's Sal Peralto, who's posting. And he's lecturing people about abuses of power in it. And here's Casey Kula, doing the same thing, lecturing people about abuses of power, which I think is ironic. Here's a thread from June 2019. He asked members of Progressive Yamhill to come make public comments. Without disclosing, he asked them to do so publicly, so Kula could use those comments to create the appearance of support for things he already wanted to do. See, Housing Solutions is happening this time. Come here and show up. Exclusive membership inside of Facebook Mafia Club. Another example of him doing this right here. Agenda item: discuss disproportionate impact of climate change on rural citizens. It seems clear to me that based on this and other communications I have screenshotted from the group's back post history, as soon as Casey Kula was elected as Yamhill County Commissioner, the members of Progressive Yamhill began influencing the agenda of meetings without disclosures of these strong ties. This is invisible government. Here's a thread where Casey talks about the inclusivity proclamation he wanted to pass as soon as he became county commissioner. It's one of the first things he tried to do. The thread reveals that it, much like how NEAT influenced a similar proclamation for the Newburgh School District, is something engineered by Progressive Yamhill. See, they're all part of this. They're guiding. They are the invisible hand up the butt of Casey Kula, and just sort of using him like a puppet for their agenda. There you go. Invisible government. Yamhill County Commissioner Casey Kula using his elected seat of government to benefit the agenda of his secret criminal conspiracy mafia dedicated to subverting American democracy. This is what critical race theory ideology causes its cult followers to do. They are loyal to their cult alone. In this thread, he asks his fellow mafia members to send public comments to help him justify his decisions during the board meetings. He knows what he wants, which is what they want: to add more seats for the county commission, no doubt because they believe it will allow them to pack the county board with their membership. Here he is talking about, if you support this thing that we already want to do, come, say the comments. So, here he is making jokes about committee packing, which I thought was hilarious, since that's exactly what I find him to be doing. Here's Chris Bledsoe saying, "Act now. Try to apply for a committee position for the citizen committee process here." And here's Casey saying, "I held the position back from the consent agenda. If anyone wants to make a comment, you are welcome to come on Thursday. In fact, if you are qualified and want to be considered, tell us that on Thursday." That's right. Tell us on Thursday. You, as part of Secret Mafia Club, want to be a member of the committee. Don't disclose this to the public, Casey Kula, but you say it within your secretive fucking group. Wonderful. So, committee packing is exactly what Casey Kula uses his seat of office to do. Casey Kula's campaign merchandise is also littered with transracial pride flags, too, showing where his loyalties align to the critical race theory cult. And here's, his wife showing some wonderful merchandise that she's no doubt created in Photoshop, I guess, or maybe perhaps MS Paint. Sure, go ahead and buy your child a Kula for Oregon school backpack and leggings with the transracial pride flag plastered everywhere. I'm sure that's just what every grade schooler wants, to become a walking advertisement for Casey Kula's nonsense. You want to hear something I think is really funny? This narcissistic, virtue-signaling asshole actually believes he's going to become governor of Oregon, even though his paper trail of criminal behavior is a sloppy. I severely doubt that will happen now that I've published this article. Casey Kula, you're clearly too damn stupid to be governor, and the entire state is certain to become a hellhole under your watch. Progressive Yamhill, you will not be controlling the state of Oregon through Casey Kula. That nightmare ends here. The important thing to understand is this. Once groups such as Progressive Yamhill get their members elected offices, the group members gain special and exclusive access to these elected officials, using the Facebook groups to organize back-channel communications about the jobs they are doing. They use this access to provide benefits and perks to the other members of the groups. This is unethical and I think also illegal. I made a typo there. Perks the other members. Fix that typo. Okay, evidence exists for possible personal financial benefit to Progressive Yamhill members. Fundraising value of the group for political campaigns is obvious, and I'll show lots of evidence for that, but I want to talk about personal financial gain here. This is a very long thread. This very long thread is about a Yamhill County meeting that took place in April. You can skip to the bottom if you want, because that's what's really relevant. I just want to show the entire thing so nobody can say I displayed anything out of context as a possible defense, okay? Scroll all the way down to the bottom, because this is after the meeting when Casey Kula decides to join it. Here we go. Casey Kula making some comment. Doesn't matter what the comment's about. Important thing is this, okay? This is one person saying, his Wesley Stoller saying, I don't know if he's related to Kristen Stoller, by the way, but he's Wesley Stoller. Word on the street is that citizens don't trust the county. Auditing county leases and saving taxpayers' money might help with that. And here's Philip Higgins, who is a real estate developer in the area. I like this idea. My firm provides this service. So, that's solicitation. I consider the highlight section to be a solicitation to Casey Kula in his capacity as Yamhill County Commissioner, one which would never have been disclosed from any public records request made by the public, because it's here in the Progressive Yamhill Mafia Group. And what is Philip Higgins currently doing right now? What is he doing right now? He's currently saying, call to action, everybody, 10 hours ago. We have a major matching donor, needs some urgent donations to Casey Kula. Urge to hit Kula for governor's campaign. Yeah, he's trying to help Casey Kula get elected as governor, possibly because there may be some personal gain for Philip Higgins to be in super secret Facebook Mafia Club with the governor of Oregon. Exactly why the Progressive Yamhill Group is so unethical and I think very illegal. Proof of efforts to pack committees with Progressive Yamhill members. I've already shown that Casey Kula has engaged in this using his seat of power as Yamhill Commissioner. Here's a refresher if you missed that part. Okay, that's just showing what I've already said before. He held back the position for his friends to be able to apply for it. You'll notice that Chris Bledsoe, was also in it as well. Here's proof it's a widespread practice among its members. Here's Marvin Bernard's. There's applications here for city of McVinville, which, of course, as I mentioned before, their members are part of. This was 3 hours ago. See that? 3 hours ago, one of them made this post here. Say, city of McVinville is looking for applicants for the budget committee. Budget committee that a bunch of their members, some of them are on, and the city council, who gets to make those appointments, are also on. Here's applications for the airport commission as well. This was October 6th, so just a couple days ago. Here's people that applied for it as well, so you can cross-reference, see which one of the Facebook Mafia people tried to join it. Here's Sal, of course. I mentioned before, submit an application. Make sure that you're a woman or a person of color for the budget committee, because we're trying to make it more equitable. I think I posted this twice. Whatever. They violated the Civil Rights Act 1964. You can't get preferential treatment. I mentioned that before. So thank you so much for providing evidence. Support my belief that your criminal conspiracy is doing this. So, as mentioned at the start of this article, these elected officials are members of Progressive Yamhill: Remy Drabkin, McVinville City Council; Sal Peralto, McVinville City Council; and Zach Geary, also McVinville City Council. Are there any disclosures that the applicants are members of their super secret mafia group? I very much doubt it. Here are some other miscellaneous actions the group puts out to help them pack committees with their cult mafia membership. Okay? It's got 600 people, so everybody needs to go and, go here and apply to become on the budget committee for the county and for the County Parks and Recreational Advisory Board as well. And then she's tagged a whole bunch of fucking people into this. Wonderful. Here's another post by this as well. Thank you, Councilor Elizabeth Rogers Curtis Gemery, apparently back when she was a councilor for Newburgh City Council, sharing your notes. And here's some more of that, in case Kula talking about it here too. Lovely. Here's of course, the entire city of Carlton are members of Progressive Yamhill. I guess it's not the entire city. I'm going to have to fix this. I thought that there was a much smaller city council, but it actually is larger than that. Carlton, let's see. Entire city government for the city. And I will fix that because it's not the entire city council. But a lot of them are. Shirley Ward Mullen, Kathy Meyer, as I mentioned before, and Linda Watkins. Evidence is clear Progressive Yamhill was behind them, because here's a post from September 6th on 2018 where, they're running for office and they're trying to push their candidates and help them out. And here's, Casey Kula sitting here talking about the same thing, because he was one of those guys who was running for a position here. And here's more discussion about all this stuff. Okay? It's a pattern of behavior with them. That's not a one-off. Use of Progressive Yamhill to manipulate public perception of city council meetings coordinated by elected officials. Just as Newburgh Equity in Education was used by Newburgh School Board officials to manipulate public perception of school board meetings by asking their members to flood the public comments with support for their agenda, various elected politicians in cities use the Progressive Yamhill group to engineer the same thing. Here's an example using Newburgh City Council members. Stephanie Bell, she's a Newburgh City Council member. I need your help. Motivate people to vote on an issue that took millions of dollars in 6 years. Reach out to a bunch of counselors. Reach out to people. Send messages. Here's Elise Yarnell also saying the same bullshit. We need you right now, guys. We need you, Progressive Yamhill. Private communication, back-channel communications, all unethical and illegal. Suzanne, giving people, using the library now to hand out, using the Rotary Club, using everything that we have at our disposal to push this stuff secretly that the public just doesn't know about. They have no clue this is going on. They also use Progressive Yamhill to help their members get appointed city councils when other people resign. Example is, again, from Newburgh. Elizabeth Rogers letting people know that people were resigning. Mike Corey resigned. So you guys got to start applying for it so we can appoint you. Because, this is how Secret Mafia Club works. Bryce Cofield as well. he's in the running for, the people that applied for city council. Of course, they interview. Here's Stephanie Bell saying, we interview the candidates at the work session. So she's here, part of Secret Mafia Club, to help one of their people join it. And of course, Bryce Cofield was indeed chosen. He was made one of them. And look, here's Bryce Cofield, super secret mafia member here. Lovely. And here's Megan, with a whole spreadsheet of this shit. So I don't believe these obvious conflicts of interest and personal connections are disclosed. Again, this is invisible government. It's unethical, and I think it's illegal. Proof that Newberg Equity and Education and Progressive Yamhill are the actual organizers of the Recall Brian Shannon PAC. As previously mentioned, I believe the filings for the Recall Brian Shannon PAC may be deceptive, because the actual efforts are organized by these unregistered PACs, Newberg Equity and Education and Progressive Yamhill. I showed some evidence for this in the Need article, but here's what it is in Progressive Yamhill. Here's Chelsea, and she's making a post back in August 26, asking about it. Stoller is saying that they haven't made the public filings and all that stuff. You can read it yourself. I've highlighted important parts. She says, I have friends that are working on support for future candidates, so they're going to recall Brian Shannon, and then they're immediately going to push their members to run for his seat. It's all part of an organized effort. Earlier, Newberg School Board meeting recap thread, you'll see the groundwork for this was laid months in advance, actually. Pretty much from the first school board session with the newly elected directors who won election over Need Progressive members. This is all the way back in July 14th, many months in the past. And you can see that I'm not going to read it all, but you can see that they were planning this stuff that they're currently doing, the recall, Brian Shannon, all that shit. They were doing this months before. Here's Megan Corvos with a Word document called Newberg Needs Love and Action Now. And she says, folks, put this with clear actions you can take to push back in Newberg Dundee. What's that document look like? Oh, it's the exact same document that the Need group labeled the Talking Points document. I mean, it has a different title. It obviously has a different origin. This is the original document, which was then recirculated into the Newberg Equity and Education group with a different title. And you can see it's almost identical to the same document that was shown in part 1 of the expose. So, thus, it is clear, based on communications within their secret mafia group, that they are the actual organizers of the Recall Brian Shannon PAC and responsible for it, and that Need is a subservient group to Progressive Yamhill. Progressive Yamhill is responsible for the recall of Lindsay, I can't really pronounce her name, Berkshire, I think. I mean, it's probably not a huge secret, but I just wanted to confirm that, yes, they are behind this, and the main organizers of it, should they successfully recall her, they wanted to get their own candidate, Lynette Shaw, elected, and then with Casey Kula, they would vote to expand the commissioner seats so they can repeat the process, filling the commission with their own membership. Anyway, here is some proof they are deeply involved in the recall of Lindsay Berkshire. You can see that there are 18 more days to get signatures. There's all their signature collection efforts and things that they're talking about doing and everything else. You can find all the evidence for this. I'm not going to read all of it. I think it's sufficient, though, when you consider everything else I've already shown by this point. Here's proof Newberg Mayor Rick Rogers was involved in the hiring of Ty Hardin Moore, that members of Progressive Yamhill gained financial benefit from abuse of positions. Someone once challenged me to prove that Newberg Rick Rogers. That's a typo. It should be Newberg Mayor Rick Rogers. Someone once challenged me to provide proof that Newberg Mayor Rick Rogers was involved in the hiring of Ty Hardin Moore as a diversity consultant. The individual claimed that only city managers do the hiring. Here is a communication that preludes the hiring of Ty Hardin Moore as a diversity consultant by the city of Newberg. It demonstrates she was hired as a result of her exclusive relationship in the Progressive Yamhill group that put her into contact with people such as Stephanie Bell Findley, a Newberg city councilor. So here is a talk. And here's Ty Hardin Moore. She says, I'm a consultant. Is there an open call for proposals? Here's Stephanie saying, thank you. I've already put my bid into the mayor to introduce you to him and our city manager and police chief for this work. I'm pretty pushy and usually get my way. So, yeah, here you go. Here you go. Stephanie Bell Findley, a City of Newberg council member, made the introduction. Looks like she got her way. So Stephanie Bell Findley and probably also Rick Rogers has committed this following violation: 244.640, 040, prohibited use of official position or office. Specifically, public official may not attempt to further the personal gain of the public official through the use of confidential information gained in the course of or by reason of holding a position as a public official. Activities of a public official. Finley got what she wanted, using her position, using a secret and illegal group of contacts to have her backchannel undisclosed public communications about the hiring of a diversity consultant. Using her seat of power, her personal agenda was served, not that of the residents of Newburgh. That's the common law definition of personal gain. This gain financially benefited Ty Hardin Moore, given she was hired, and gained further acclaim for that hiring that she has used to pad her resume. I wonder if there was any kickbacks. I think it's worth investigating. By the way, Ty Hardin Moore has some neat friends. Here she is talking. In 2013, I had the great pleasure of attending President Obama's inauguration and inaugural hall. Amazing. Stay tuned for a future article, because I'm looking into some stuff about Ty Hardin Moore's connections to other people. Attempt to deplatform me via a Google sandboxing. I wasn't really sure where to put this, but it seems one of their members went as far as trying to convince someone at Google to sandbox my website, meaning delist it from Google search, as a means of censorship, as outrageous as that sounds. Okay, here is Sidoni Winfield saying, I have emails out to my contacts at Google about his blog. So, and Kelly says, I don't see any term service violations that a host will act on. So they were trying very hard to get my blog taken down. Of course they were, just like they're probably responsible for the GoFundMe being deplatformed. At least them deplatforming me. Sidoni Winfield, she likes to deplatform people for their political criticism. So let's pull her out of the shadows, and here is her smiling face. Yeah, here's her smiling face. This is who she is. Couldn't really figure out who the hell she actually is, career-wise, and how she would have contacts at Google. She seems, as far as I can tell, to just be some, another one of these stay-at-home... Actually, that's not true. I did figure out who she is. I'm sorry, I'm correcting myself. She's an attorney, is who she appears to be. Here's the thing. You don't control the internet, and you do not control me. You don't control me, okay? Everyone can now see you for the scum that you are. Progressive Yamhill intimidate and stalk people who disagree with them. Part 1 of this article, I showed Need members to often harass people who disagree with their members. Of course, the Progressive Yamhill members also do this as well, and here's an example. I assume this to be an angry resident of Newburgh who was upset at Newburgh schoolteacher Angie Spratcher for her indoctrination of children using the schools. He told her, stop indoctrination of children, you anarchist pig. She decided that, she's the same teacher, by the way, I should mention. She's the same one who posted that TikTok video and violated Oregon law 339.875 procurement, display, and salute of flags, removing it from classroom. So the group got together, started taking his photos and personal information and trying to get him fired from his job and boycott his businesses and things like that. So I believe I'm trying to avoid making this article so long by showing all the stuff that they do. But you get the idea, right? It's the same pattern of behavior I previously shown the Need subgroup engaging in. It's a pattern of behavior with them. There's reason for law enforcement to investigate this. I believe Newburgh Equity and Education is a subservient group to Progressive Yamhill. As such, part of the criminal conspiracy. So the important thing to know is that Need and Progressive Yamhill have many of the same key members, so many that I believe Need is essentially a subservient group. And as such, I believe they are the charges for the Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, RICO, should apply to them. See, if you missed the previous section, here's the spreadsheet that I show their members, how to identify them, okay? So I believe that due to the close ties between Need and Progressive Yamhill, such as I have shown in this article, this means that all of Progressive Yamhill's members are, therefore, in my opinion, complicit in the same crimes I accused all the Need members of committing, since Need is a subservient group to Progressive Yamhill and loyal to its leaders via the chain of command that exists within their organizational structure. This is how RICO is designed to work. It makes the crimes of members at the bottom of the hierarchy be chargeable to the members further up the chain of command who are benefited by those actions. The activities of the two groups are related as they have the same goal of subverting the democratic process in our country for the benefit of those who receive special perks and benefits for the membership, such as exclusive and undisclosed communications with elected officials in violation of a law, which can be used to provide financial benefits or other perks. For those who think you can get away with guilt by association just because you may not personally have known every member of the conspiracy, you can guess again, because it says the government need not prove that the defendant agreed with every other conspirator, knew all of the other conspirators, or had full knowledge of all the details of the conspiracy. Defendant agreed to commit the substantive racketeering offense through agreeing to participate in two racketeering acts, that he knew the general status of the conspiracy, and that he knew the conspiracy extended beyond his individual role. As I demonstrated in my prior article, the patterns of intimidation and coercion activities, which you can click, to read about that in the previous article, against elected Newburgh School Board officials were performed in cooperation with elected officials such as Yamhill County Commissioner Casey Kula, who, using their positions, acted on behalf of the group to help apply pressure. Knowing that if the effort is successful to get those school board directors to resign, Casey Kula gets to help appoint new members, such as those in the knee group, like Ty Hardin Moore, who was among their preferred candidates during the previous school board election. Other members of Progressive Yamhill were deeply involved in the Recall Brian Shannon PAC that is also part of the conspiracy as well. It is all part of RICO as a collective criminal conspiracy. You have interfered in commerce, the school board director's lawful right to employment and business that is deprived of them for unlawful reasons, such as their voting habits, so that they can provide benefit to others' appointment to the school board if they resign. Likewise, Need, as a subservient group to Progressive Yamhill, is also responsible for many of the crimes that members of Progressive Yamhill have committed. So, government ethics laws violated by Progressive Yamhill members. So let's see here. There's so many of you and so many examples to choose from. First, pretty much everything I've shown shows that Casey Kula demonstrates, he's violated 244.040 prohibited use of official position of office. Specifically, a public official may not solicit or receive, either directly or indirectly, any pledge or promise future employment based on understanding that the vote, official action, or judgment of the public official would be influenced by the pledge or promise. A public official may not attempt to further personal gain of the public official through the use of confidential information gained in the course or by reason of holding a position as a public official or activities of the public official. I think pretty much every other elected official and committee member violated this law too. One of the commonplace behaviors of your group is to get your members elected into seats of power by acting as volunteers for their campaigns, and for the elected members to then turn around and reward the mafia members by appointing them to other public positions, such as committee seats. There is a long pattern of behavior of your members who are elected officials, posting into the Progressive Yamhill group, asking other members of the conspiracy to apply for seats on committees, jobs in city government or county, and for committee positions. And then those officials never disclose that you're all members of the same secret shadow government to the city council and county commission, who know nothing about this conspiracy. Then these people also use a secret Facebook group that has a quorum for those committees and city council, such as the city of Carlton and some committees, and you talk about public issues and decide on public policy using the secretive and exclusive Facebook group with input on matters from those who don't even live in the cities, steering the direction of the policies you implement. Your public meetings are basically a formality, a kind of theater, because as a group you already decided what those elected members of the particular city councils and committees were going to do before the meeting took place. Case in point, Casey Kula asking the Progressive Yamhill members for their input whether he should try to issue county-wide lockdowns, as well as the drafting of the inclusivity statement he wanted to pass. Besides, you guys know the laws that you're breaking. Here's Kerry Martin talking about it. Here's Philip Higgins talking about these rules related to public meeting laws that you guys are violating. So yeah, these secretive back-channel communications are violations of Oregon Statute 192.630, meetings of governing body to be open to the public. Per case law, you don't have to have a quorum for this section to be violated. Prohibition on quorums of governing body not meet in private for purpose of deliberation may apply to deliberation other than a meeting per Oregon Supreme Court ruling Trimet versus Amalgamated Transit Union Local 757. Furthermore, their use of electronic communications, I just want to point out, this is my own research. There's no attorney who's helped me with this, by the way, just point that out. Furthermore, their use of electronic communications, the Facebook group, and possibly also their personal Facebook Messenger communications with one another are in violation of Oregon Statute 192.670, meetings by means of telephone or electronic communication. Any meeting of a governing body of a public body held through the use of electronic communication shall be conducted in accordance with Oregon Statute 192.610. Okay, when the second part, when other electronic means of communication is used, and the meeting is not an executive session, the governing body of the public body shall make available to the public at least one place where at least one electronic means by which the public can listen to the communications at the time it occurs. The public was not allowed to participate in private Facebook Mafia Club. Only members of the conspiracy creating invisible government were permitted to participate in these discussions between elected officials, committee members, and others about their duties and matters they have governance and jurisdiction over. Furthermore, any record request a person makes to an official would not have covered these Facebook communications because the public generally wouldn't know about it. So I believe this law has been violated. I believe that the nature of the communications that I have shown and that I possess on my hard drive, screenshotted from many, many instances of these back-channel communications, are violations of public meeting laws, and as such, the progressive Yamhill group's activities are incredibly illegal and evidence of its nature as criminal conspiracy per Oregon Statute 161.450, criminal conspiracy, especially given the treasonous intentions of the group. The penalties violations are outlined by Oregon Department of Justice website, Chapter 199, Division 8, Compliance and Sanctions, Section 199-008-0014. It sounds pretty dire for the violators of the law, and aren't you guys all glad that you get Facebook Mafia Club? Anyone who reads this article can report these officials for the violations to the Oregon Government Ethics Commission, which I have an easy link to in the article. I believe civil lawsuits should also be filed against the elected officials so that the public can obtain a complete record of their Facebook communications they decided to use to conduct official business as public officials, especially those communications which any other members of the conspiracy per my downloadable spreadsheet of their member list. The public has a right to know what these elected officials are discussing behind closed doors with their fellow conspirators. The entire posting history of each member into Progressive Yamhill can be requested from Facebook via the URL link associated with their name that is contained in the downloadable spreadsheet. The relevant law here for the civil lawsuits is 192.314, right to inspect public records, notice to public body attorney. Okay, this is other laws as well. 192.318, function of custodian of public records. They have to make this stuff available to you. This is because their Facebook messages and posts are public records, since they were made while acting in their official capacity as elected officials. Just because they were abusing their seats doesn't mean they were not acting in their capacity as public officials. They were. I would also recommend law enforcement file subpoena requests to Facebook for any messages they try to delete. I have reason to believe some of their admins removed evidence from the Newberg Equity in Education group before they archived it in an attempt to hide some things. I'm happy to explain my reasonings to any members of law enforcement. Campaign finance law violations. Progressive Yamhill members who run for office frequently break a bunch of rules related to campaign financing. As an example, here is Stephanie Bell Findlay, Newberg City Council member, conducting a fundraising raffle for Lynette Shaw's campaign, which is illegal. Of course, there she is doing it. Okay. An illegal raffle in Super Secret Mafia Facebook Club for a political campaign, and she wasn't even bright enough to delete the post after the fact. In a group that has over 1,000 people in it is quite amazing. Only nonprofits can do raffles as a fundraising endeavor, and there are regulations for it in Oregon, such as needing a license. Political committees are not a nonprofit. Okay? All proof of all the stuff. Also, was this fundraiser properly disclosed? There are so many different PAC activities you guys coordinate using Progressive Yamhill, it's clear the lines are heavily blurred on precisely which PAC is covering these activities. As an example, we have organization of Recall Brian Shannon PAC mixed with the Recall Lindsay, I think, pronounce her name, Berkshire activities of Save Yamhill County PAC. Note that the BS, of course, means Brian Shannon. Here's the evidence of that. Okay, evidence for all this stuff that I am claiming. Here, help me collect signatures. Okay, so we've got all that. People saying signatures for it and everything else. Neighborhood canvassing, recall canvassing, yada, yada, yada. So many screenshots of things related to their promotion of these recalls that I could fill in our entire article just showing them all. The Progressive Yamhill group alerts and helps manage the election campaigns for their membership as well. Here's proof of that. Okay, there's a bunch of proof that they're behind the organization of their candidates that they like. They're part of the members of Secret Mafia Club. Mafia Club. They also mix the activities of the candidate committees into this private group as well. The one for Lynette Shaw I showed already. Here's Ty Hardin Morris announcing her run for the school district in Newburgh to the Progressive Yamhill group. Okay, and here's them talking about more stuff, helping her do BLM protests in Newburgh and things like that. Okay. As you can see, they frequently also use the police to harass people. I pointed that out because it was part of their discussions. Here's a campaign fundraiser for Chris Bloodshow, who is, ironically, accusing her opponent of being partisan, while she is literally fundraising from the Yamhill Democrats and using them to promote her campaign. I find that to be fucking hilarious. Chris Bloodshow is also the mother-in-law to Casey Kula, by the way. She talks about it inside Super Secret Facebook Mafia Club. By the way, would you trust these people with collecting your ballots? I sure as hell wouldn't, and yet, here they are, collecting people's ballots on election night. Progressive Yamhill crowds strike me as the kinds of people who will just decide you don't share their politics based on some circumstantial trait they imagine about you, like being a cis white male who owns a pickup truck or having an American flag in your front yard, and then want to throw your ballot in the garbage. They shouldn't be anywhere near these operations, having access to ballot pickup locations. By the way, here's more things about the signatures, and they're gathering signatures for recall in a city park, which I don't know if you can actually do legally without a proper permitting. I'm excited to share that Stephanie Bell Finley, working behind the scenes on stuff, all kinds of things that they've mixed into this single undisclosed PAC group called Progressive Yamhill. As mentioned before, a candidate for office asking people to take action without disclosures the candidate asked them to do so. I'm pretty sure that's a violation of the law. They also operate phone banks for Yamhill County Democrats, too. They do that as well. Let's see. And they also did it for candidates within the groups as well. And they organize campaigns for their members, as mentioned before. Organization. Ask their members to send mailers out. So they make all these mailers, and then they have their candidates do the actual mailing for some fucking reason. We did it, and money was raised to cover postage for the postcards. Yada yada. They're part of voter registration stuff. So you see their booth there, and then they'll try to get you into their club and get you on their mailing list. All kinds of different fun-filled activities, fundraising for kinds of issue-based political campaigning that violates the Hatch Act, as I previously explained in my last article. Okay, doing stuff for the Newburgh School pride flag thing. Please make notice of the presence of attorney Ryan Howard in this, who, as I mentioned in the previous article, is the attorney of record for the school-based health clinic in Newburgh High School, the Wellness Collective ran by Kristen Stoller. Ryan Howard is also on the Historic Preservation Committee in Newburgh, Oregon. I believe his law office records should be investigated, given his active participation in this criminal conspiracy. Various other political action committees and parties pop up as well, asking for donations. Okay, lots of stuff appears in this unregistered PAC. Looking for stuff. Here's money that they have donated to a bunch of different people as well. Just lots and lots of stuff that they're involved in. They even asked for beauty tips to help them look more attractive while they're campaigning. Here's Lisa Pohl asking for makeup tips for her future campaign that she thinks that she's going to do, which I don't think that she's going to be able to be successful with now. So in summary, we have one group of people organizing recall PACs that are working in conjunction with PACs that support candidates such as Teilhard Moore and Lynette Shaw, who desire the seats of those being recalled and harassed, using the same private Facebook group that has numerous elected officials. The group also consists of the entire leadership body of the Yamhill Democrats, a registered political party. There is enormous crossover between all these supposedly different PACs to the degree they are really just one group, which I believe is an unregistered PAC. Thus, both the funding and the legwork of these PACs has the public appearance of being separately raised, when it is in fact all coming from the same group of people who have close and undisclosed ties together. Basically, we have the activities of multiple petition committees, candidate committees, political action committees, all overlapping heavily. I mean, honestly, how can you keep track of what is one PAC's activities when the same people running those campaigns are doing them all at the same time? How can you say who is paying for what when the waters are muddied so greatly? And they don't disclose these overlaps at all. And looking at activities overlapping, I don't believe they are independent PACs at all, which would make their filings fraudulent. Consequently, I believe that both Progressive Yamhill and Newberg Equity in Action, I guess I keep fucking saying in action. I'll fix that later. I believe that Progressive Yamhill and Newberg Equity in Education are unregistered political action committees created to deceive the state of Oregon and the public about what these parties are actually doing and how money raised for these PACs are actually spent and used to support multiple different political activities. I mean, I sure can't make sense of which people are actually only for which PAC at which time. There is way too much crossover among activities and people. I'm also pretty sure it's a violation to be working so closely with candidates for office and other PACs and to never disclose any of this in the filings. Of course, they are aware of the laws that they break, right? So I've got in this Facebook group where I was badgering people a bit. Kristen Solar says, without listing who it came from, that must mean that it is a private effort. Campaign rules require anything sent from or behalf of a campaign have to list the name of the campaign and who paid for it. They know the rules. They're sticklers for the rules when they think someone else has broken them, but they blatantly ignore them inside their own groups when it stands in the way of their goals. As an example, here's one of them complaining about how they think someone else has broken rules they break all the time. Counselor sent a message to somebody over Facebook asking them to contact them, and they think this was an enormous violation of the rules, and they have a whole fucking thread about this, about how terrible it is, and of course they do this shit all the fucking time. So, there's also this one, for Yamhill County Democrats, resolution where they said not to bully people, and it's just hilarious, right? The motto of the Progressive Yamhill Democrats should be rules for thee, but not for me. Their platform is tyranny. This is now almost an hour and a half long video. I'm going to stop it here, and then I will finish out the rest of the podcast with discussing some of the more nefarious things I think they've done. Thank you so much for watching this far, and I'll see you in the next part. Thanks.